Just want to let you guys know about the Photo Banter YouTube channel. I've been uploading the video version of the podcast up there, so if you want to watch the video, as well as I've been making some other short form video content on there, and I'm going to continue keep uploading more stuff. So if you're not subscribed, if you could just go over to the Photo Banter YouTube channel and hit subscribe, it'd be much appreciated. Just kind of help support the channel and keep it growing. So let's go over to the Photo Banter YouTube channel, and like I said, I'm going to keep uploading more videos and some more projects I'm working on. But thanks so much. Before we get into today's podcast, I wanted to tell you guys about PicDrop. PicDrop is an image transfer tool I've been using personally for over 5 years now. It's how I send all my photos to my clients, and I can create custom galleries online, which I can access on my laptop, mobile phone, on the go, where I can download files. It's just a really intuitive platform that was actually designed by photographers with photographers in mind. So they really understand what photographers need when they're delivering photos to clients. And they're constantly updating the platform with new tools and things you can use to just kind of streamline your workflow and make it easier when sending your photos to clients. They have a cool new scribble tool. So if you're working with a retoucher or a client, they can make notes on your photos and really just make it easy to communicate with your client and keep everything in one spot. I can't recommend it enough. It's just, for me, it's a lot better than some of the more outdated platforms like WeTransfer and Dropbox. It's just a very specific transfer tool for photographers in mind. So with today's podcast, with the promo code BANTER, you'll get 2 months free of PicDrop. All you got to do is go over to picdrop.com, enter the promo code BANTER, and you'll get 2 months free. So definitely go give it a try. Let me know what you guys think. And without further ado, we'll get into today's episode. Welcome back to the Photo Banter podcast. I'm your host, Alex Gagne, and on today's episode, I speak with photographer Michelle Mishina. She's based in Honolulu, Hawaii. This is actually the second time I interviewed Michelle. I was out there in Hawaii back in January and unfortunately messed up the recording. So we had to redo this one. But I was excited to talk to Michelle about everything she's been working on. She just did a recent assignment for the New York Times, which we discussed, as well as this her experience growing up in Hawaii. Some of her personal projects, and much more. I really enjoy Michelle's work and all the personal projects she's always working on. So it was great to have her on the podcast. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode, and thanks so much for listening. Well, Michelle Mishina, welcome to the podcast. Anybody listening, this is actually the second time we've done this, because I came out to Hawaii back in January, and I've never made this mistake in almost 300 episodes. I happened to get food poisoning when I came out to interview Michelle in person, and I forgot to hit record on my mics or something. And so we're redoing it. I'm excited to talk to you, and it's actually cool. It's been about 4.5 months since I've seen you, and it seems like you've been pretty busy. I guess how's the year been going since I talked to you in January?
Yeah, it's been going well. I'm actually quite relieved that it didn't record, because that was my first experience ever with a podcast or any kind of like interview format in this way. And so it felt really nice to have sort of a practice round
Yeah.
meet in person. But yeah, this year's been it's been busy. It's been a lot of different things, a lot of photojournalism. And yeah, it's good. It's off to a good start.
I saw you have a thing in the New York Times. I think it came out yesterday or today. For the New York Times, it was a story kind of documenting. I think it was like a coffee farm out in Kona. Is that correct?
Yeah, so Kona is known for their coffee. It's this like microclimate where coffee grows really, really well. It's highly prized, and it's actually the area that I grew up. So I grew up within Kona in this very small sort of coffee growing community, and um, the New York Times was doing a story on how ICE immigration enforcement has kind of made its way to these tiny little coffee farms on the Big Island, and how it's affecting the upcoming harvest. And so it's I don't know so much anymore if I like to do news, but this one felt really important for me because it's where I'm from, and a lot of the people I grew up with live in this world, and yeah, it's I think important to tell stories, of where you're from, and especially if they're timely and emotional. Yeah.
How do you approach that assignment? Like, what was the
assignment, and what did the New York Times, did they kind of direct you on what they wanted you to do, and how do you approach that when such a very serious topic and um, going out and photographing people in that situation has to be a tough situation to be in?
Yeah, it was, like a lot of stories, the more you learn about it or the more information you get as you start to dig into it, the stories kind of change. And maybe what initially we thought the story was going to be about shifted a little bit. It started when a first grader was removed from his classroom at the elementary school where I actually happened to go as a kid myself. And the reporter who was there on vacation heard about this and heard about the increased activity of ICE. And so we kind of quickly put together a plan for me to go out there. And she was still doing a lot of the research. And I also was. So as I was photographing, we were talking to people and trying to figure out how is this impacting the community and what it actually looks like for farmers and for workers. Um, yeah. So the story sort of evolves as you get more information and you try to figure out what's the best way to tell it, and also being very aware of you know if people are undocumented, how to tell the story and share their perspective without sort of outing them and putting their lives in danger or that. Yeah.
And is there anything you kind of learned just getting a chance to talk to people out there and kind of dealing with this situation right now?
Um I think it's mixed. I heard from some people that, well, from farmers, that a lot of their workers that are supposed to come from for these harvests, they're afraid to, even if they have green cards, they're afraid to travel because they may get deported. And then I've also heard from people who have lived in Kona for a long time and have been working in coffee for a long time and who are residents who aren't as concerned, but it's still affecting the community. I think more and more. I think since we did the story, there was an additional raid, and so I think that the tension has gone up a bit since the story has was first recorded.
Yeah. And I know you kind of mentioned like you don't do a ton of the news stuff so much anymore. I know you do a lot of portraiture, you kind of do like travel stuff and other like storytelling stuff. Is it kind of hard to jump back into that like hard hitting journalism stuff when you don't do it all the time? Or
Um, I think the hard part is more the pace of it, like how the quick turnarounds and but really I would approach it the same way I approach any other assignment, which is to try to form connections and understand someone else's experience and try to tell the story. I think, yeah. Yeah, it's more about the pace, I think.
yeah, definitely. It's like you have to shoot, deliver everything, get all your yeah.
The captioning takes so much time.
Yep.
It's like I got into photography so I didn't have to write, and here I am doing like 200 captions. It's like, oh,
Yeah, yeah, it is tough. And I was looking at your website. I don't know if it was new since the last time I talked to you. There's a new personal project. I think it's new. San Benito, California. Is that something you shot this year?
no, that's actually quite old. And
Okay.
but I've sort of updated the site a little bit. That project is really special for me because it was the first project. Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
It was the first project that I did sort of on my own and without any direction. Um, so one of my best friends from college is a writer, and we wanted to do a project together because since we had graduated from college, she lived in the Bay Area, I lived in LA, and we wanted to find something to do together. And so we took out a map and we tried to figure out where we could find a story. And we picked this place. So San Benito is south of Gilroy in Northern California by maybe an hour. I don't know. It's been a little while since I've been, but it's south of Gilroy. It's this sort of remote ranching community. And we picked it because we didn't know where else to go. And I have a dog. This is a fun, fun way to choose your locations. But I put some dog food on the map, and whichever kernel she ate first, that's where we went straight to San Benito, and then so did we. So she drove from Northern California, from San Francisco. I drove from LA, and we met in San Benito, and we just kind of walked around for a couple of days talking to people and trying to figure out what there was to to do in this town, what the stories were. And it was kind of hard because there's not a lot going on. But
Hmm.
we eventually met some people, and it turns out they were doing, it's a big ranching community. And so we just sort of got involved with that. And we went back a couple of times and just got to know the people and got to see how they live their life there. And it's just this sort of um, place out of time almost. It really felt like it could have been, 10, 20, 40 years ago.
And they were this cool open to being photographed, or like how did you like contact them before? Or you just kind of drove up and tried to photograph.
Yeah, I mean, so when we first started walking around and calling people and trying to figure out, what's going on in this town, we met this guy named Ken, who was really lovely and open and was very happy to share his world with us. And Ken was sort of that's him right there, on the left. Yeah. And he was our entry into this world. And he just kind of took us along and introduced us to people, and they were very happy to let us just observe. And yeah, it was nice. This is where I felt like I started to figure out the kind of work I like to do. And because I got to go back a few times, it really sort of cemented for me that I like longer form projects and opportunities to evolve relationships over time and examine landscapes over time. Um, yeah,
This is
it
cool. This is all natural light. You photographed this whole story.
yeah, yeah,
It's amazing.
yeah.
Is that your dog right there?
No, you know, somebody else. Yeah.
uh, yeah, because as you mentioned, like this was kind of the first story you kind of picked as the kind of a project you wanted to work on yourself. Like before that, what were you kind of shooting? This kind of roaming around. This kind of what?
Yeah, what was I doing? I guess I was kind of doing assignments here and there. I was going to art school. I think this was right after art center. So I went to art center for like 2 years in Pasadena. And I think I was just trying to figure out what comes next, or how do I make photography, a big part of my life. When I went to college with my friend who did this project with me, we were studying journalism. And then I went to art center and studied photography. So I was trying to look for a way to combine those two things. And this was an experiment in that direction.
And so your friend working on it, were they photographing too, or what was their kind of role in the project?
He was gonna write. We didn't end up actually having a story written. But yeah, that was the start of the project. I ended up finishing just the photography, and maybe we'll go back there and actually do the written story, a decade later or something. But yeah.
That'd be a cool project just in general. Just put the dog food on the map and get your dog depicted the next, and then do the whole project that way and see what
Yeah.
it's like. Photo project roulette or something.
Uh-huh. Yeah. If
Uh,
you ever have trouble making decisions, just
it's the starting point. Um, yeah, I guess to go back, like, where did you grow up and like how did you initially discover photography?
well, I grew up in Kona, so like these exact neighborhoods where I was photographing a couple weeks ago. It's pretty rural. Yeah, and I had another dog, and I used to just walk down my driveway and walk my dog every night, and the sunsets are so beautiful in Kona. And so I take this little disposable camera and just photograph the sunset. And Kona has these like really wide expanses. So there's really nothing else in the frame besides like the sun and the ocean, but I would photograph that all the time. And sometimes it would have a flash. It was terrible, but I loved the feeling of recognizing this moment was special, and by taking a picture, or pressing a button, or using some film on it, it was sort of like confirmation that this moment mattered. And so the pictures were horrible. They're just, sunset pictures, but it kind of sparked something in me that this is a way that I like to record things for myself.
And how old were you when you kind of first picked up a camera? Were you like in high school or younger? Like when did you kind of initially kind of get find the photography, I guess?
Yeah, I think maybe like early high school, but it wasn't really, I wouldn't say I was like into photography.
Mhm.
It's kind of like how we use our phones now.
Yeah.
I think in college is when I realized that you could have sort of a point of view, like a camera and the frame that you're looking through, you can showcase like what you're thinking or how you're seeing the world through that. It doesn't have to just be like, this is what the scene looks like.
Hmm.
Once I realized I could sort of shift my perspective and um, you know, have a commentary with the photography is when I think I started to be more excited about it.
Because
Yeah.
was photography always something you thought you'd pursue as a career? Or, like, not really.
No, 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 no. I thought I'd be a journalist, work in news or work in nonprofits. And yeah, I think I was living in LA at the time and I liked photography as a hobby. And I decided to start taking some classes like at community college, LA City College, and then at Sammy's Camera in LA. And
Legendary.
legendary. And there was this one class I took with someone named Anthony Friedkin, who was a former Magnum photographer. It was on documentary photography. And at this point, I had kind of like started teaching myself a little bit about photo history and um, knew what kind of photography I was drawn to. And I loved the Magnum photographers. So when I saw he was offering a class, I was like, oh, yeah, definitely take that. And it sort of, um, it really opened my eyes to like different ways of storytelling in photography. And I loved it. I loved his assignments. I loved the readings. And then we had this final project where we had to put together a series of images. And, um, if you live in LA, you've gone to Salton Sea and Salvation Mountain probably. And I decided to go to Salvation Mountain and I spent the day with this guy named Leonard Knight who built the thing. He's this older man who has spent like decades using clay and hay, adobe to kind of build this mountain that was his life's work. It's all about love. And have you been there? Have you been to Salvation Mountain?
No, but I think I have seen it in that movie Into the Wild.
Yeah.
And there's a scene he's in it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I went down there, spent the day in the desert with him and kind of followed him around and um, made some fun pictures. I was just exploring and having that experience. And after we turned in that assignment, the teacher wrote to me like, maybe consider doing this for a career. And I was like, really? You think I could do this? Is that possible? And then I was like, all right, let's just keep trying. And then
Yeah.
I slowly started to become disenchanted with my office job. And I was like, yeah, I should be a photographer.
Yeah. 'Cause the class was freaking, you said that was at Sammy's that where they had that class?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. Have you done a lot of those type of like things like workshops or anything? Not really, no.
No,
Yeah.
I did that one, that workshop. I mean, I took a basic photo class at LA City College. Um, and then Anthony Friedkin's workshop. And then I went to Art Center.
Wow.
And yeah.
That's amazing. And making the leap to go to art center at that point, like I know you said you worked at like nonprofits and stuff, was like making that leap to go to art school, like a big decision for you, and like what made you kind of want to go to school there, I guess.
I mean, it was honestly, it was kind of impulsive. Like, yeah, I should just do this. Like, this feels, when everything in your body's like, yeah, do it. And
Mhm.
it's just like, okay, I have to go to Art Center because all the photographers that I really admired at that time, when I would read their bios, they all went to Art Center. I was like, okay, so this must be the place. There's something about the way that they see that I really like. And it's right here in Pasadena. I'm just going to apply and see. And so I used that portfolio of images that I made in Anthony Friedkin's class and got in. And yeah. And then it was like, okay, if you're going to do this, there's not really any going back. You have to make this your career. This is a big, big leap. So I liked the little bit of pressure around it.
And what was art? I've actually never been to art center, but yeah, so many amazing photographers who I've interviewed and met have gone there. And what was kind of the program like? Like, was it, because I know like some photo schools are like photojournalistic and some are fine art and some are kind of commercial. What was your kind of experience going to school there?
I think Art Center is a very commercial photography program, but they really have a foundation it's like very technical. So we start off with black and white photography, film, color film, large format, doing these like really detailed exercises on exposure and processing. And there's this crazy assignment called the 9 neg, where you have to photograph in a bunch of different exposures, and then everything ends up equal through the processing and the exposures, and it's just very grueling. But yeah, so I would say it's a very technical school. And my thought with going to Art Center, one of the reasons I decided to go there was I was considering, do I study photojournalism because that's what I'm interested in? But I figured I have a journalism background. Maybe I'll study the technical and the art side of photography. And I feel quite happy that I did that. Yeah.
And what kind of work were you making while you were there?
Oh my God. I mean, just student assignments. It wasn't anything that special. Yeah, I can't think of any work from Art Center that still is like,
Were there like any like photographers who kind of inspired you early on? Like when you look back, some of the first photographers you discovered, be it photojournalists or anyone else, like kind of the beginning of it for you?
I mean, I loved Paolo Pellegrin's work.
Yep.
He does a lot of conflict photography, but he's also a really talented portrait artist. And then uh, early on, I mean, Elliot Erwitt, I loved the sense of humor and yeah, the playfulness of it. And I think loving these with conflict photography, a lot of what I liked is they're quite emotional images, but there's beauty in that chaos. And I think Elliot Erwitt's images I liked for a different reason, which is like there's just these simple moments in life that are so beautiful and expansive. And it's like there's two sides of the human experience. Yeah.
Yeah,
What-
Elliot. Yeah, his work is amazing because it's like all these moments that like if you just stop to like look every day, they're out there, but it's like we're all this. I got to get to here to point A, point B, or whatever. It's like I think that's what's so amazing about his work. You're just like, damn, like why didn't I think of that? Like this, all that stuff, you know?
Yeah, like you change your perspective and then everything shifts. Like there's that famous photograph he has of the little tiny dog in the woman's legs, and it's like he's right down on the ground photographing like at I think it's a Chihuahua, like the Chihuahua's height. Um, but yeah, I loved the playfulness of it.
Yeah, I was lucky. He came and spoke when I was in college, and he did a presentation. It was like he had a really like dry sense of humor. It was like really funny. It was great. Um, but then I guess like you mentioned, so you thought, did you have a goal in mind for what you wanted to do after school? Like I know you mentioned like photojournalism. Like, did you have like dreams of working at a newspaper? Or, like, what do you think you're gonna do?
And that's why it was such an impulsive thing because I didn't really have plans for after Art Center. I just knew that was the direction that I wanted to go. That's what I felt called to do. And I thought I would just figure it out afterwards. And maybe Art Center would give me some direction and I could figure out what kind of photography I wanted to do the most.
And what going through that experience of like art center, do you feel like it's like beneficial to your career now? And like, what do you think you kind of took away from it most, getting to have that experience?
Yeah, I've thought a lot about this because I think, art center and photo schools generally are quite expensive. And I think that there are ways to get that education without fully investing all that money, like doing other workshops. Lot there's a lot of information online right now. And so there's a ton of really incredible self-taught photographers. I think for me, I do really well with structure. And so I liked the idea of having this container where I could really devote myself to learning these things. Yeah. Sorry, what was your question again?
No, just like having the experience to go to art school and
Yeah.
like spend that time learning about photography. Like, do you feel like it was like beneficial to what you're doing now? And like, what do you think you learned most from like having that experience, getting to like focus on photography at a school like that?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that, while it's possible I could have gotten the same sort of information in terms of like the technical skills elsewhere, I think where Art Center was really, really important for me was it it the technical skills I learned there. It was great, but it changed how I see. Um, I went in, kind of knowing that I liked to find pretty things, or I liked when compositions aligned in a certain way. But Art Center and certain classes in particular, certain instructors in particular, really helped me articulate like helped me notice light. And that's become such a huge part of how I photograph now that I think without Art Center, I would be a very different photographer. Um, without those classes. Ken Murfeld is the teacher. We all,
Okay.
yeah. He did this very theatrical sort of introduction on one of our very first classes, very first term, one of the very first classes. We go into this classroom and it's basically dark, and everybody comes in, and once we're all there, he shuts the door, and we're just sitting there in these chairs in darkness. And he starts asking us questions from the front of the room, like, okay, what is photography? And people are piping up and they're saying, oh, it's like color and it's composition and it's emotion and all of these things. I'm like, yeah, it's all of those things. And he's like, nope, 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 nope. And we're just like, okay, then what is it? And it's silent. And you hear the like scratch of a match and light.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you can see the room opens up. And he's like, photography is all about light. And it was very dramatic and very memorable. And we spent the rest of that term trying to find light. And it took us an entire term to understand what light looks like. Yeah. So that was very impactful for me.
That's amazing. I don't know if you feel this way, but like my experience was like also getting to be around a lot of other photographers, like and having that community. Because as you know, like now, like once you're this on your own, you're on your own. You're on assignment. You're working by yourself. You're working from home or whatever. And since you're kind of out there, was like getting to be have a community of other photographers like beneficial at all to you? You think?
Yeah, 100%. I think not just getting through these really arduous assignments, but also I think in the long term, like one of the best things I took away from Art Center, I believe, are the relationships that I've made there. They're people that I met in the photo program and then in other departments of Art Center that have become really, really good friends of mine. And that sense of community extends even till today when we live in very different places and we're doing different kinds of work, but we can call each other and, talk about photo things, philosophical things, business things. And yeah, that community is very important.
Yeah, definitely. And then, so when you got out of art school, like, what was your kind of first step into the photo world? Like, how do you, that's the hardest part. I think anyone listening is like, you know, turning this thing into a career and making a living and being able to sustain it is the hard part. I guess, what was your kind of first step into pursuing work, I guess?
Well, I think so. While I was in Art Center and right before Art Center, when I was starting to think about how do you make a living as a photographer, the thing that kept coming up was like, oh, we'll just shoot weddings. And I was like, okay, let me try it. And actually I quite liked it because there's that photojournalistic aspect to it, right? There's this sort of chaos and there's emotion and you have one chance to get things right. And so I did a, I kind of assisted people here and there through school. And then after Art Center, I'm like, okay, well, how are you gonna do this? I started shooting some weddings and I feel like it's incredible training. And wedding photographers often get a bad rap, but I think that they have to do so much with so little that it's very it's very respectable
Oh,
profession.
100%. Not even just the photography, because I did wedding photography for a while too, and just dealing with like the clients in wedding photography, like because you're dealing, because the thing that I struggle with that was like you're dealing with people that don't understand photography and like some of the limitations of like, because you know how they're like, can we shoot? They'll give you like like 5-page list of like, I want this shot, this shot, this shot. I'm like, you don't have that much time in the day, and then
Yeah.
and this explaining and managing expectations and dealing with the families and all that stuff. It's a lot of like people skills dealing with weddings, I found.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never really had that experience with the long shot list. I have always been just pretty clear, like
Yeah.
photograph this the way I photograph everything else. And I quite like the relationship aspect of it, like seeing the dynamics between different people. And um, yeah, I
No,
think
that's
very
good. I
rewarding.
that's how I should have done. I'd be like, I shoot this way. I'm the
Yeah,
artist, and I'm gonna do
lead
it
it.
however I want. Oh
But,
man.
otherwise it's not fun, right? And if
Yeah.
it's not fun, you're not going to want to do it. So
No, weddings are super fun.
yeah,
I
that's
had
it. It's just
a bunch of weddings that were fun to shoot.
yeah, yeah. I don't do so many of them now, but I really do enjoy them here and there. It's a good way to stay sharp, I think.
And did you always knew you were gonna come back to Hawaii, or like how long did you end up staying at Los Angeles for?
I was in LA for I think 13 years. I didn't know that I would always come back to Hawaii, but when honestly one day it hit that I needed to come home, and it was as simple as seeing someone's Instagram story of the Big Island, and it's just grass blowing in the wind, and it struck something in me that was like it was calling me home. And so very quickly after that, I made plans to move back. And I don't, again, it was just like Art Center. I don't know why I felt like I needed to do this thing, but I just needed to do it. And I felt really like I needed to come home.
Mm.
And at that point, I was, you grow up in a place and you know it as a child, your very tiny little perspective of it. And when I came back, I was really interested to understand Hawaii in a broader sense, culturally, and just kind of get out of my own perspective a little bit with it, but also bring my perspective to it because I'd been away for so long. So it's this sort of simultaneous being from there, but also being an outsider again, um, that I think has been an interesting exploration for me.
Yeah, I mean, Hawaii, I've been there 4 times now. It's the most amazing place I've ever been. Just like the people, obviously the landscape, and there's just so much like rich history and culture and everything. There's this like so many stories and so much to learn every time I go back there, get to go there. I meet so many interesting people and learn stuff. Um, but like leaving Los Angeles and then going back to Hawaii, is that like daunting? Because I think about that myself as a photographer. You start for a while and then to go, do you feel like you're starting over again? Because it's like you got to like find clients and find work. Like, how do you kind of manage that? Like going back and to to a new but familiar place, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I don't I don't know why I do these things because I had no real structure in place. I had no real plan. I moved to an island that I'd never lived on before. I have some family here, but I didn't have any friends here. I didn't have any business contacts here. But it just felt like where I needed to go and what I needed to do. And I figured like I would I would sort it out. And it's funny because when I made the decision to go, this is how I feel like sometimes the universe just helps you out when you're making the right decision, things align. And so I made the decision to go. I looked up the expenses, what it would cost to move all my stuff there, like what is the, minimum I need to survive before I can start making money there. And I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and made the decision. And then like a week later, I got a job for that exact amount of money.
Wow.
Yeah. It's like,
I need
all right,
I need to reach your Zen state, Michelle, where it's just like I just go. I'm stressing out too much.
you know, I had a place to live. I think
Yeah,
that's all
yeah.
to say. Like I ended up staying with some family. So it wasn't like I and my rent was very, very cheap.
Yeah.
And so that's really what allowed me to come back was, having that privilege of having family there that could share some space with me. But um yeah, I don't know. You just
No.
get like feelings and you have to follow
Yeah,
them.
trust your gut. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm doing that right now. I got this project I want to do, but I'm
Yeah.
just like, it's a small investment, but I'm like, this is gonna be worth it. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it. But
Do
like
it.
coming back to Hawaii, was that, uh, did your photography change at all? What kind of stuff were you photographing once you came back to Hawaii? Was it like inspiring for you to be back, photographically in this place that you grew up in?
Yeah, it was really interesting to come back and yeah, look at Hawaii through new eyes. But also I was on another island too. I didn't grow up on Oahu. So it was also exploring this place that was familiar but also unfamiliar. Um, and the assignments I got right off the bat were really great because the magazines I was working with, they really focused on stories of culture and um, not sort of typical travel stories. And so it was a great reintroduction to me or for me of this place and of different communities here. So I feel really lucky that I got a lot of those assignments and was able to integrate that way.
What were some of the first magazines you're working with there?
So there's a magazine called Flux. in Hawaii, which is about art and culture here. And there was a story. What was the first story I did? One of the first stories I did, actually, one of their sort of sister magazines, was a story on hula
Hmm.
uh, at this iconic hotel in Honolulu in Waikiki, where the hula dancers are all former Miss Hawaii contestants or winners. Um, and so it was interesting to land in this place and, be given access to this iconic location and these incredible hula dancers. Um, it was like a soft entry. And then the next assignment that I had that I really, really loved was for this magazine called Hana Ho, which is the Hawaiian Airlines in-flight magazine.
Amazing magazine. Like you think whenever I fly to Hawaii and fly Hawaiian, I always look forward to it. Like I know my friend Arto, who I know you know, like when I flew back last time, was like he had some stuff in there, so I was excited. It's really beautiful like stories. It's not like your normal cheesy like tourism stuff. It's like really amazing.
Beautiful stories. Yeah, they do a really, really incredible job with that magazine. And my first assignment with them when I moved back was photographing this band called Hapa, and it was a duo. Hapa in Hawaiian means half, and so one guy is Caucasian, the other guy is Hawaiian, so they're like half half. And their music I grew up to. And so they were doing a show. They were reuniting for the first time in a long time at the Blue Note. And my assignment was to photograph the show and then photograph them afterwards. And um, I got there, I photographed the shows, very sort of standard images that you would expect. And then afterwards, I had to figure out how to photograph them in the Blue Note space. Like we didn't have any other place we could go for the portraits, and the staff, they were starting to clean up. They were putting chairs on top of tables, and like we had a very limited amount of time to do this portrait. And I was like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? And then these two guys come out and they're like, okay, what do you want to do? And there's just like these stacks of chairs everywhere. And I was like, well, let's just do it here. And so they pulled some chairs out from these stacks and they sat together and they just played this music that I grew up listening to. And it was this unreal experience for me. It's like, okay, I just got home and now I'm photographing these people whose music meant so much to me growing up. And they're playing in this empty club, staff is cleaning, there's chairs everywhere. And they found this moment together that was just so beautiful. It's like everything else fell away. Um, yeah, that was really a special one.
No, it is the most amazing thing about it. I love editorial because it's just like you get thrown in these situations and like I don't know, but you feel this way like you can plan all you want, but then sometimes assignment stuff just kind of changes when you show up.
Totally.
Like how do you approach assignment like work, I guess, and like has your approach changed over the years now that you've been doing it for a while?
Um, how do I approach assignment work? I think I approach it all kind of the same way. I don't bring a lot of lighting with me. I work mostly by myself. And so really when I go into any assignment, my goal is to observe and be present and like to figure out what it is about that person or that place that feels special or unique. And um maybe the outcome looks different on these various assignments, but the approach is always just to go in and be curious and to be open and to yeah, be influenceable, you know?
Have you always just been good like dealing with people and like kind of especially with you're a portrait photographer and you're telling stories or is that something you feel like you get better at in time or
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really think about it in that way. It's all like, trying to connect. And I think the thing that I loved the most about journalism was the access into other people's ways of thinking, other people's ways of living, and understanding that we're all so similar. When it comes right down to it, we all have the same sort of needs and desires and hopes and dreams and fears. And with journalism, I found it very difficult to convey all of that in writing, but I loved the experience of talking to people and being with them. And photography was sort of a quick way to have that same experience and make the work and not have to like, struggle over blank pages. You're so long. Yeah, I don't know.
And then in terms of this, like, I guess when you think about your work from like an aesthetic point, do you think about that much? Just like I guess your voice as a photographer and like guess the style and aesthetic of it. Is something you think it's changed a lot over the years, or like how do you kind of view this the style and this your the way you approach it? I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I think that I see my work in two different spheres. I think there's the assignment work, the portraits, the storytelling, and then my personal work is more of like almost like a meditation for me. And I think stylistically there's definitely overlap. You know, there's this preoccupation or obsession with beautiful light, and these sort of ephemeral moments, things that, you know, um, if you're not looking, can disappear before you ever experience them. Um, so I like recording that. I think in both cases, I have this desire to record, like to make a record of something. So it's either to make a record of a place or a person or a life, or to make a record for me in my personal work of a feeling or of a sense of an experience or of a tiny little moment. Um, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, you're someone I really enjoy your work, looking at your work because like seem like you always got a personal project going. It seems like, or you're always chipping away at something. I know that this one. Let me pull it up, and we talked about it before, but uh, your Salt Makers series, which I think you worked on for a while. Like, how did this was a personal project, right?
This came about in a very similar way to the San Benito project, where it was just something I had heard about, and I went, I just showed up there. Honestly, I showed up there and I started talking to people and was curious about what they were doing, and um, was lucky enough to be allowed access to photograph there. And I went back a couple of times. My This project is not finished, and in fact, it's on hold. I'd like to continue making this work this year, but you know, assignments come in and things happen, and so like personal projects sometimes take a lot longer than you would like. But yeah, this project is really special. This group of people, they're a number of families that have been farming salt on Kauai for generations, and these salt ponds are passed down through the generations. So you can't like just go and set up a plot and start farming salt. Like you have to be ushered in through your parents or grandparents or some family member. And the salt that's produced is not available for sale. It's considered sacred, and also not FDA approved. So you can only give it as a gift, or receive it as a gift. You can't buy it. And it's one of the last like, well, of I think this group is the last group, so, excuse me, farming salt in this method in Hawaii. So they use these red clay beds and they form them with rocks, and then they pour water from the ocean into the clay beds, and the sun evaporates the water, and you're left with this like beautiful flaky salt that has a little bit of a pink tint to it from the red clay. Um, and their location is close to an airfield. It's close to a public beach, and so there's issues with debris coming in from these other areas. And then also because the salt needs time to dry out. With climate change, they've had less consistent weather, so sometimes the salt ponds can't completely dry out, and their harvests are smaller than they have been in the past. So it references issues of you know, climate change, of development, and of like keeping traditions alive. And yeah.
What like how did you discover this story and like I guess like what was your goal starting out and like has it kind of evolved? Like I know you meant like you just mentioned like the environment and the traditions. Was that always your goal from the beginning to kind of showcase that, or is that something you kind of discovered when you first started kind of going out there, I guess?
Well, I first heard about it through a friend who writes about landscape and the environment, and it just piqued my curiosity. And so went over. I went over and checked it out, and again, it was just like curiosity. I showed up, I started talking to people and took a couple pictures and went back and took a couple more. And the idea is actually I would really ultimately love to take all of these images and do more images. I want to do portraits of everyone there as well.
Mhm.
Um, and print them as salt prints using the salt from the ponds. So salt printing is one of the older photographic printing methods, and it's just silver and salt basically. Um, and so the idea would be to, print these out like digital negatives and then do the salt print, the contact print, to use their own material to represent the people of this community.
That's amazing. And since, like you said, they can't sell any of it,
Mhm.
so is this something that's like they're working on like every day all year, or is it this something people like you said they don't sell it, so it's obviously not like a business. So are they kind of volunteer when they have time, or like how does it kind of operate, I guess?
Well, it's a tradition and a cultural practice.
Yeah.
So there's seasons for it. A lot of the year the ponds are sort of underwater or it's there's a cycle every year. So when the ponds start to dry out, they'll go and clean them and re-smooth them and then they'll start doing the water, let the water evaporate, harvest the salt, and then it goes, the next year. So yeah.
And is this something like have you published it at all, or like try to pitch it or anything like that, or do you think you would ever do that, or just kind of keep it?
I would like to, and I do actually have some hesitation about even having it up on my site because I really don't feel like it's finished. I feel like it's very early stages still.
Hmm.
Uh, for me, the finished product would be to make the actual salt prints of these images and to get them into the hands of the people that live there so that they have something for themselves, a photographic record for themselves made in this way. So I think, yeah, ultimately I want to make the prints.
No, it's amazing. It's amazing work. You think you'll get out there at all this year, or
I'm hoping to get out there in the next couple months. So we'll
nice?
see. But it's been a little while since we've last, talked and shot together. And so because it's a very tight-knit community, I do have some like trepidation. Like, are they gonna allow me back in? I don't know. And I think that's something that I feel really like nervous about.
Yeah.
Did I do okay last time I was there? Did I share pictures quickly enough? Maybe not. Like, did I don't know. It feels very do you know what I mean? I feel
Oh,
like pressed
100%, because it's like, I mean, photography, especially when you're like, I tell stories about real people too, and it's like, it is a weird feeling because you're obviously going there because it's something you're interested in. You care about this culture. You're from Hawaii, but then it's also you're like kind of in a weird way. It's like almost like taking something, but it's like you're inserting yourself in this place. It's a weird feeling as a photographer, but it's important work to do because you want to keep these traditions and culture going. And I would imagine that's part of the story is just like all of that stuff.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
There's a strange tension there because I'm from Hawaii, but I'm not from Hanapepe. I'm not from Hawaii. I'm not from this community. And so I am definitely still an outsider. And so I take any access very like humbly, I think. I'm very grateful for it.
No, yeah, no, it's amazing. It's an amazing body of work. Looking forward to see where you kind of take it. One assignment, I really love the work. Let me pull it up here. I got it here. Is you did a shoot with Kai Lenny. Is that picture showing up on your screen there?
Yep.
All right, cool. I believe this was like an editorial spread assignment, but anybody who's not familiar with Kai Lenny, maybe you could explain who he is and like how you kind of approach this assignment because it was really beautiful work.
So Kai Lenny is, I guess, arguably one of the best watermen around today. He can do everything. And big wave surfer, snowboarder. He does everything. On the week of this shoot, he was doing a snowboarding thing, I think, for Red Bull. And he came home, and this assignment was for a magazine called Fatherly.
Mm.
And I loved it because I'm not a sports photographer. I'm not a surf photographer. So the idea of photographing Kai Lenny like in his natural element of big waves is totally not for me. But photographing him with his family, with his two young daughters, and kind of seeing a different side of him was something I was very, very interested in. And so it was nice to see him in a space that is not typically represented, I think. And yeah, it was just it was a fun shoot. He was very tired, I think, from that snowboarding trip, but
Yeah.
his little girls give him so much energy. Yeah.
Like, how do you, for an assignment like this, uh, like, do you talk to your subjects a lot beforehand of like kind of telling them what your goal is to accomplish, or like how do you kind of just interact with people, especially when you're getting access to photograph them like in their homes and things like that?
Yeah, for this one, we didn't talk ahead of time. It was through, I think, his publicist and the editors, and we just sort of figured out that we would start at his house and maybe walk down to the beach with the kids and just kind of do a day in the life of the Lenny family. And so we showed up, and we got to his house. I was with my friend who was doing some like behind the scenes video, and he rolled up with his daughters and his wife in a golf cart, and we just like jumped in and went to the beach, and that's how it started. And he's very, very comfortable being photographed, so I think there wasn't a lot of warming up needed on his part, and we just kind of fell into it. Um, yeah.
No, it's amazing. Um, and then I guess, you know, being a freelance photographer, like I am as well as you, it's a crazy career. Like it can be busy, it can be slow. Like, how do you kind of deal with the ups and downs of being a freelance artist? And like, is it something you always been comfortable with? Because I struggle with it. It's like,
Hard. It's so hard. I have yeah, there's moments where I feel like there's not enough time in the day. And then there's other moments where I'm just like, oh, I probably should catch up on all of those projects that I've like put aside when the assignments came through. But um I'm just figuring that out. I don't know. It changes all the time. And I think what's difficult about a lot of the photojournalism stuff is these assignments come up so quickly and out of nowhere that you sort of have to drop everything and go. And so I can have all of these plans to, update my website or, reach out to new people. And then I have to just drop it and do something else because that's an interesting project or I, haven't worked that much this month. I don't know. So yeah, it's definitely an ebb and flow, but um, if you find a way to even it out, let me know.
yeah, I know it's tough and just I don't know because I definitely have doubted myself at certain times in this career path, like where years where it's slow, and I'm like, is this it? This the end? But like, I don't know. At the end of it, I feel like I realize I love photography. There's no way I'm quitting, like, because I love for it. Like, I'm not be every time. Be it, it's just like the satisfaction of shooting your own personal work, or when you get that email to get like a cool assignment. It's like, oh man, this is what it's not about the money or anything. It's just about being able to keep doing it.
100%, 100%. Like I was on an assignment recently for the New York Times, and it was a story about hiking on Oahu, and it was like a Tuesday morning, and I was photographing this trail in East Honolulu, and I was walking through this forest by myself, just like looking at the trees and hearing the birds, and I was like, wow, I'm at work right now. Like, it'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Just yeah, that's pretty special.
100%. It's an amazing career path. This other assignment I remember you talked about it, it's so cool. It's called OC95, and I love this project because it is we can if you can explain what it is for people, if people want to check it out, it's on your website.
Yeah, so OC95 is the name of a paint color, and it's the color that my apartment walls were painted in Pasadena, and it's actually a color I hate. I really didn't like this paint color. I thought it was horrible, um, but the landlord wouldn't let us repaint, so we were stuck with it. And at this point in my life, I was feeling like a little bit creatively uninspired, and I remember just like laying on the floor one day and looking up at the ceiling, and our apartment did not get a lot of light. It was sort of this pancake shape where we had one window to the side and then a couple windows in the kitchen. But there was a lot of dark space in between. And so the only light was from these little window areas. And um, it was quite depressing to me. I really didn't like it. And this day that I was laying on the floor feeling sad about it, I looked up and I saw that the gradation of the shadows was really interesting. And there was this like little crack in the ceiling where the building had shifted. And the way that the light changed over that crack was intriguing to me. And so I grabbed my camera and I just started photographing these shadows. And um it was a way to make peace with that place, I think.
I I just really appreciated this because like it this shows you can make art like anywhere. Like you
Yeah.
you don't need to go anywhere really. You can just kind of make it out of anything. And that's the thing. It's just like I don't know. I think for a long time I was like, oh, I need to travel here and I need to like do this. It's like, oh no, if you actually just like sit with your thoughts sometimes and slow down, it's like, oh, like what's actually around me and trying to explore that, you know?
Yeah, I think this idea that limitations can equal freedom is really important. Like, um, you don't need the biggest sets, the most equipment, all of the things to make interesting photos. You just need some imagination or some time or to shift your perspective a little bit. Um, yeah, I think that's one of the great things about photography.
I guess,
Just
yeah.
Mhm.
For you, like, what interests you photographically now? Like, do you still have like, is there like stuff, goals, or projects you've always dreamt about doing? Because like Hawaii, like, there's endless stories and there's so many islands
Yeah.
and all that. Yeah.
Well, so where is it? Oh, I don't have it. I had this crazy idea where I saw that Kodak makes these black and white disposable film cameras.
I got them. I've been using them. They got Tri-X disposal.
Yes,
Yeah.
they do.
Yeah.
So I just decided I'm going to buy a year's worth of those cameras. And they arrived the other day, and my goal is to try to shoot one picture on that camera every day.
Whoa. How many, wait, so how many cameras? It's
I
36.
have
So
14. There's,
14.
yeah, there's 27 frames. So I haven't been every single day, but most days I've been taking a picture on that camera. And I think it's kind of interesting. I can't decide if I'm going to develop them all at once or develop them as I go, but I like this idea of forcing myself to find something that's worthy of, a photograph every single day.
So that's interesting. What made you want to pick that camera instead of this? Like, I know a million people do like the iPhone picture a day or like their camera. What made you want to do that camera, you think?
It's different. I mean, I think that it's tangible, right? And I like that you can't see what you photographed. It's very lightweight. It's easy to put in your pocket, easy to travel with. I like that it's black and white as opposed to color, so it imposes some limitations on what you're doing.
Yeah.
Uh, I've done similar projects like this before where I've taken a photo every day at the same time. And I think there's just something about it being film, about it being black and white film, about it being just a disposable camera that is intriguing.
It's fun.
Yeah.
I got a couple of it. I actually haven't I gotta drop one off next time I go to lab. I finished one of them, but I haven't seen what it looks like yet. So I'm excited to see the results. But I was excited when they released those things. I think this
Yeah.
last year.
You want to do one picture a day with me?
Maybe I
And
know,
like in a year,
or 14. That would
that'd
be
be
funny.
great.
Uh,
I kind of forgot I ordered that. As you can tell, I'm a little bit impulsive with certain things. I forgot I ordered it, and the box came in the mail. I was like, oh,
hey, it's
I gotta
hey.
start doing this.
No, that's great. Do you think will you allow yourself to use the flash on it, or are you limiting it to? Okay, so that's okay too. Okay,
That's okay too.
all
Yeah.
right, that's
Yeah.
awesome. So far, wait. So how long have you been using it now?
Maybe just like a week and a half, not very long at all.
And it's see, I never done that project. So have you found like a theme yet in what you've been photographing, or is it this kind of spur of the moment? I'm out and about, and this whatever. Yeah.
Sometimes it's out and about. I like to walk a lot, so sometimes it's on a walk. The other day I photographed my mom and her twin sister because my mom was visiting from the Big Island. And that was kind of a fun picture. That was for me, like for my heart personally, but also I think it's kind of interesting. They're twins, and um but yeah, allowing myself one frame of these things.
That's cool. Yeah, it makes it. You should do like a zine of it or something when you're done. It'd be cool to see the whole project or something, or I don't know, post
Yeah.
it. It'd be cool. Um, yeah, like I guess now having like grown up in Hawaii, lived in LA, and now you're back in Hawaii. What is it about Hawaii that inspires you, and what do you enjoy about Hawaii? I guess.
Hmm. I mean, I think no matter where you live, there's always something more you can learn about this place, right? And even if you've grown up there your whole life, you can maybe talk to different people or shift your perspective a little bit, and suddenly that place will have a whole new meaning or will like grow in its dimensions. Um, there's a book I really love called, I think it's called On Looking,
Hmm.
and it's a woman who lives in New York and she's a writer, and she decides to walk her city block with like a number of different people, like her 3-year-old son, like an anthropologist. And each time she does this walk around the block, she learns about how they see the world. And I think that, approaching the places that we live or that we know most with that same sense of curiosity or seeing things from a different perspective um, is really powerful. So with Hawaii, I feel like, there's certain things that are harder for me here. Like our light is very consistent throughout the year. It doesn't change the way that it does in LA or in other places.
I
And
don't feel bad for your light and great weather all year round, Michelle. I'm sorry.
okay, but I miss it. I miss the fog and I miss the early sunsets. But but there is so much to explore here. Yeah.
I would imagine actually as a um photographing. I feel like I don't know if I feel like this in New York City too, where it's like Hawaii is such a beautiful place. And there's a lot of stuff that's been photographed a million times, like especially like in Oahu or whatever. Like everyone's photographed. Like what's that main drag there? What's the Waikiki and all that, and even like North Shore, beautiful place. And there, it's is it a challenge not to repeat stuff that's been photographed all the time and like find unique stories a little bit?
100%. And I think, a lot of the work that I do is travel photography of Hawaii. And so it's really challenging to um get an assignment to photograph all of these iconic places and try to see it in a new way. I'm working on a project right now. We're just starting where it is a lot of these iconic locations, but thinking about photography, Hawaii has been represented in photography in a very similar way for like the last 100 years.
Hmm.
Um, that's not necessarily the experience of living here. And so, how do you reconcile those two things? How do you start to bring in imagery or perspectives that are more aligned with what it actually feels like to be here, as opposed to the outsider's perspective of just the surfing and Diamond Head and the pineapples
Yeah.
and all things? Because that's not an actual representation of this place.
Yeah. 100%. There's like so many cool stories, which I think that's the coolest thing about your work. Like, be it the salt stuff or any of the stuff you're working on, it's like you going the extra mile to find these stories that haven't really been told. And that's what's, I think, exciting. More effort to do it and find it, but they're out there, I think.
Uh, and I think, actually Honolulu is a really interesting place right now for creatives because there are a lot um of photographers and artists here that are telling the stories of their community. And so it's really inspiring to see, what their perspectives are as Native Hawaiians or as like a slightly younger generation, how what Hawaii means to them and how they see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You and me actually got to photograph the same artist, Hanalei, who
Yeah.
amazing. I photographed him back in January for AARP, and he's like this artist who's doing this traditional art form of it's like weaving with like actual natural plants, and this
Mhm.
is just an incredible person, like who is yeah keeping those traditions going and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people doing stuff like that, so
Yeah.
hopefully I'll get to see them.
Yeah,
Wait.
that's exciting. And I guess to wrap up, like, what's next for you? Anything you're excited for this summer working on besides I guess you got your one picture a day with the Kodak disposable and all that, but anything else you're excited about, I guess?
Yeah, so there's a personal project I've been working on for a couple of years that I really need to finish. And I've been collecting a series of images to put into a book. So, um I've I think I think it's ready to start. It's so hard. I don't know. This the feeling of putting something that's so personal out into the world is very difficult. I don't know when it's ready, but I think it's at the point where I've like labored over it enough that I can start maybe pitching it to places or self-publishing. But yeah, the next thing for me is getting this book out.
Is this work you've showed anyone? Is it on your website or no?
Um, some of it is. So a lot of it is personal work. Some photos are outtakes from assignments, but no, I haven't shown a whole lot of it before. And it's really important to me to make things that exist in a physical form. I think as editorial photographers, commercial photographers, a lot of our work ends up just in the digital space. And so I love photo books, and I really wanted to make something of my own that existed,
Yeah.
that you could hold and interact with offline.
Yeah, I remember at your house on the wall, you had a ton of little prints and stuff. So I think that was part of the book, right? Yeah.
Yes. So
Yeah.
wish me luck, but I think there will be some movement on that soon.
Awesome. Well, Michelle, thanks for doing this a second time, and it's still recording, so it's gonna go up. So thank you so much.
Thank you. It's so fun to talk with you again.
So there you have it. That was the Michelle Mishina interview. I just want to thank Michelle so much for taking the time to come on the podcast. It was a real pleasure speaking to her about everything she's been working on. Really appreciate all her personal projects she's always got going. You can go check out more of Michelle's work at her website at michellemachina.com, or you can follow her on Instagram at michelle.machina. I'll put all her links in the show notes, so you can go give her a follow and look at more of her work. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, if you're not already subscribed to the Photo Banter YouTube channel, if you can go over, hit the subscribe button, it'd be much appreciated. This kind of helps grow the channel and keep doing more videos and podcasts, so that'd be great. And also with this episode, if you use the promo code BANTER, you'll get 2 months free of the PicDrop image transfer tool. All you got to do is go over to picdrop.com, enter the promo code BANTER, and you'll get 2 months free. As always, thanks so much for listening, and take care.